Bernhard Haupt, Carl Philipp Emanuel Bach's music, and a chamber orchestra named after that composer, as that was a B-flat major flute concerto.
And good afternoon. You're listening to your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio, the voice of the community. I'm Chuck Smith. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. If you're a Morning Edition local news fan, then you've obviously tuned in and heard me bring you the news from Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana at the top of the hour here at Red River Radio. I'm doing midday duty right now because this is our December pledge drive, and it's our way of making sure that we can keep bringing you commercial-free public radio to North Louisiana, Central Louisiana, Southwest Arkansas, East Texas, and our newest station, KTYK 100.7 FM in the Tyler, Overton, Kilgore area. So welcome to our new listeners over there. If you're tuning in for the first time, we appreciate it. You know, we are commercial-free public radio, and that we rely on the generosity of listeners just like you who value their local public radio station and call in and make a contribution. So why not give us a call and maybe make a $25 contribution? You can do it all at once or spread it out over 12 months, or if you'd like to give more, that's great too. You'll not only be providing public radio, a commercial-free public radio service to your area, but here's the special thing that you'll be doing as well during our December pledge drive. This is our Christmas backpack drive, and what that means is we partnered up with the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the East Texas Food Bank, and for every contribution we get from you, we will also be able to provide a backpack of food, about a week's worth of food, to a food-insecure child in the Red River Radio listening area through these wonderful organizations. Here with me is Meg Coleman. She's the Development Director for the Northwest Louisiana Food Bank, and this is her first time on the air with Red River Radio. She's been doing a great job, and Meg, we appreciate all that you do with the food bank, and thanks for coming out and helping us out today.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate everything you're doing, and what a great opportunity that Red River Radio is offering to not only donate to Red River Radio, but to also quadruple the donation by helping the food bankers and children who are hungry in our community. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate it, and you know, this went over so well last year. We had such a great response that we were able to even offer more than planned food backpacks because the support was just fantastic. And we're trying to raise enough to get 2,400 backpacks over this 3-day pledge drive. So the goal is at least 800 a day. And right now we are at 185 backpacks so far. 62 people have called in, made a contribution, and that allows us to fill 185 backpacks. So thank you very much. Now, because we're trying to reach 800 by today, that means we got 615 more backpacks to fill. So if you call in and say make a $20 contribution, a $30 contribution, whatever amount, part of that is going to go towards filling a backpack. So you're going to be providing public radio to the area, supporting your local public radio station, and keeping the programs that you love and enjoy on the air commercial-free, and help food-independent or food-insecure child during the holidays. And, you know, the holidays are a tough time for many families in the Arklatex. 1 out of 5 families is what you call food insecure, and 30% of those families are children and single moms. And you know, we were talking about earlier some of the situations. There may be a single mom who's undergoing chemotherapy. She can't work. She's got very little in the way of resources, and this would really go a long way in helping her out. You've got working moms who are really stretched thin, and for whatever circumstance, a lot of people have circumstances well beyond their control, and they're doing the best they can. And a backpack of food, man, that is a real that's a real deal breaker there. That can
Absolutely.
really break the chain for at least a few days.
Absolutely.
And make a big difference in someone's life. So give us a call, won't you? 800-552-8502, or go online to redriverradio.org. Click the donate button near the top of the page. Fill out the form. You'll spend 2 to 3 minutes either way. and it'll be easy to do, and you'll feel so much better. And just do it now, okay? Meg, do we have someone we need to say thank you to?
Absolutely. We have two more donations. One from Jonathan McCartney, and he is from Shreveport, Louisiana, and he is given a gift. And then we have another donor from Nacogdoches, Texas, and he's asked to be anonymous, two more right here.
That's awesome. Thanks
Fantastic.
so much for both of you.
Fantastic.
That is wonderful. And, where else can you make a contribution and support not one, not two, not three, but four worthwhile organizations? You'll be supporting public radio. You'll be supporting these three worthwhile food banks in our area. And do we have one more? We do.
Well, I believe so, unless it's already been read, but we can thank her twice.
Okay.
I think Susan Bettinger. Forgive me if I didn't say her last name right. And her comment is, and she's from Shreveport, Louisiana, and she says that Red River Radio is the only reliable source for news.
Well, thank you so much, Susan. We do appreciate that. And we have some wonderful news programs from Morning Edition News in the morning, All Things Considered in the afternoon, and, of course, middays, the BBC World News Service and World Now in the early morning hours before I come on the air. I always listen to it when I'm driving in from work, and it's a wonderful program and gives you a look at the world at large, as well as takes a look back at the United States and from a different lens, so to speak. So where else are you going to get these types of programs? I mean, if you go up and down the dial, we are your public radio source. We are it. So with your help, we can continue to do what we've been doing for 34 years. You know, imagine back in 1984, this was the largest area that did not have a public radio station until a group of folks with vision said, hey, we need to change that here at LSUS. They started with KDAQ, and through the years, it's grown to a 5-station network now. We've got a new station over in Tyler, Overton, Kilgore, KTYK 100.7 FM. So if you're just tuned in over there, welcome to the Red River Radio Network. And if you'd like to help us out and, deal with some of our breaking in expenses and bringing a new station to that area, this is a great time to do it. 800-552-8502 or go online to redriverradio.org. Before we get back into our program, Meg, we were talking earlier that, people don't realize that food banks do a lot of good, and not just, they're not a one-trick pony. I mean, when we have disasters in the area, when we have floods, when we have storms, when we have people whose lives are turned upside down through catastrophe or fires or any number of reasons, the food banks are there to help fill their need, fill their gap. And Governor Edwards and his wife went to the airwaves about a week or so ago and said, the food bank shelves are pretty bare because of having to serve all these needs. You guys are part of a network. You help each
That's
other
correct.
out. In South Louisiana, when the floods hit, when there's fires in East Texas, or when there's catastrophe all over the area, you guys pitch in and really support each other and one another. And now you really need help.
Absolutely. During the floods and the disasters, we do help other food banks. We have a great network, great, wonderful relationship. We belong to a hunger relief organization called Feeding America that also helps pull us all together. So we are there for our neighbors, just as our community is here for us. And there's probably never been a greater time of need right now in our community. We are considered one of the more poverty areas in the country. So, and as far as children, we have 1 in 5 are considered food insecure. So we have children that are in need of food, and their eyes light up when they receive a backpack every Friday. When they take it home, their parents or their custodians or whoever they live with are relieved, and it's just an incredible opportunity. This particular is an incredible opportunity to make such a big difference for all of our food banks, these 3 food banks that you're helping.
Well, this is you guys do great work, and I mean, a lot of us, we go through our lives day to day, and we sometimes, we don't think about things, and all I can tell you is that unless you had something happen to you, unless you had a really severe, say a healthcare catastrophe, maybe your family dynamic changed, something occurred, someone died, that was the sole provider to your family or something, and you're a single mom, you're trying to make ends meet, or maybe you're recovering from a horrible illness and you can't work. this is where food banks step up. This is
Absolutely.
where they help out. And you know, until you've had your life turned upside down, you can't appreciate what I'm saying. And I know people who've had this happen to them in covering news stories and stuff. And you know, you see the stories, you hear the stories, but you can't stop getting involved. You got to help now.
Absolutely. Providing food to me is one of the, just a simple, basic um, uh, gift that you can give to help people even get back on their feet and possibly catch up with bills or their electricity bills or their medical bills or any of those factors that we all have to pay. So
Absolutely. 1 week of food, which is a backpack for a child, can go a long way towards someone's holiday Christmas this year. And you know, it's just that, like you said, you know, food, shelter, and security. That's the baseline of basic needs, and food is a big part of that. So won't you give us a call right now, please, at 800-552-8502 and make a contribution, whatever you can. It'll go a long way to support your local public radio station and help feed a food insecure child over the holidays. Call now, won't you? 1-800-552-8502. We appreciate you listening, and we thank you so much for your support.
Vanessa McKeon and Friends performing that music by Maurice Ravel, Introduction and Allegro. We follow that with this Introduction and Allegro by Robert Schumann, Christian Zacharias, soloist and conductor. Christian Zacharias, the soloist and the conductor, leading the Lausanne Chamber Orchestra. We heard music by Robert Schumann, his introduction, and Allegro Appassionato, Opus 92.
And good afternoon. You're listening to your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio, the voice of the community. I'm Chuck Smith. Hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. It's a little overcast outside, but you know what? Don't let the gray clouds make your day seem less happy. You can do something that'll make you feel warm and fuzzy inside, and I'm talking about giving us a call and making a contribution. Not only will you be supporting your local public radio station, but you'll be allowing us to help feed a food insecure child over the holidays. This is our Christmas backpack program here at Red River Radio. We did this last year and it was so well received. Well, we're doing it again. We've partnered with the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank as well. Now, here's how it works. You call in and make a contribution. Let's say you call in and make a $30 contribution to Red River Radio. Not only will that help us stay on the air commercial-free and provide you great quality programs such as the classical music that you've been listening to, but it will also allow us to spread the cheer, the holiday cheer, in the form of a backpack of food, about a week's worth of food to a child that may not have enough to eat over the holidays. You know, there's a lot of food insecure families in our area. About 1 in 5 families are what you call food insecure, and of those, 30% are children. And Red River Radio would like to kind of help take a dent out of the not having enough to eat over the holidays. So call us now at 1-800-552-8502. Meg Coleman is the Development Director for the Northwest Louisiana Food Bank. Meg, appreciate you coming in, and we also have some people we need to thank, don't we?
Absolutely, and thank you for having us and for this incredible opportunity to quantify your donation to Red River Radio. We have an anonymous donor from Shreveport, Louisiana, and the comment was, "We are fond of a lot of the programs." Thank you. And then Knox Goodman from Shreveport, Louisiana, says that, and she's given a donation. She says she loves Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, Click and Clack, the beautiful music, and she feels that the backpack idea is fabulous. Well, thank you, Knox.
Thank you, Knox. And if any of you are friends of Knox here in Shreveport, hey, follow her lead. Give us a call at 800-552-8502. Anyone else we need to thank, or is that what we caught up right now?
We're caught up.
Okay. Well, Meg, we were talking about, you know, earlier, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana does wonderful things for everybody. In addition to this backpack program, I mean, you guys do stuff year-round, I mean, to help kind of deal with this food insecurity problem that we have in our area.
We do. We actually we partner with over 150 nonprofit agencies who have a component of food, and we provide food for food pantries, soup kitchens, homeless shelters in the 7 parishes of Northwest Louisiana that we cover, and that's our service area. We also, of course, the backpack program is dear and dear to many of our hearts because the children are in need, and this is what you're supporting. Senior box programs, we deliver over 1,000 boxes of seniors to the 7 parishes of homebound seniors. We have an after-school program, of course, disaster relief. We are we serve over 75,000 people, and that is in a year and in a month as well.
Wow, that's a huge number of folks. So this is not just a one-trick pony, folks. And your contributions to Red River Radio will also help out the Northwest Louisiana Food Bank, as well as the Food Bank of Central Louisiana and East Texas Food Bank as well. So why don't you give us a call now at 800-552-8502, or go online to redriverradio.org. Click the donate button near the top of the page, fill out the form. Either way, it'll take 2-3 minutes tops for you to help bring some holiday cheer to a food insecure child during the holidays, and also support your local public radio station. I need to remind you, you're listening to Red River Radio, a public radio service of LSUS. This is 89.9 FM, KDAQ, Shreveport, Bossier City, 90.7, KLSA, Alexandria, Pineville, 90.9, KBSA, El Dorado, Camden, Magnolia, and 88.9 KLDN, Lufkin, Nacogdoches. And welcome to 100.7 FM, KTYK, our newest station in the Red River Radio Network, Overton, Tyler, Kilgore. This is Red River Radio, your local public radio station and your voice of the community.
His actions bring shame to his family. Barbara Sprent, NPR News, New York.
Federal prosecutors have signed a deal with tabloid publisher American Media Incorporated. The agreement states AMI will not be prosecuted in exchange for its cooperation in the government's investigation into hush money payments made to a woman who claims to have had an affair with Donald Trump before he was president. The deal was announced this afternoon by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. A secret vote is underway in the British Parliament to determine whether Prime Minister Theresa May will remain in power. NPR's Frank Langfitt reports May is facing a no-confidence vote from members of her own party over her handling of Brexit.
This withdrawal agreement that she's crafted with the European Union has very little support here in Parliament. And the reason for that, as we've discussed, is it would put Northern Ireland, a part of the United Kingdom, in this closer customs arrangement for a while. With the EU, many people here in Parliament feel that's a threat to the integrity of the United Kingdom, could go on for a long time.
NPR's Frank Langfitt. A manhunt is underway in France for the gunman in yesterday's deadly attack at a Christmas market in Strasbourg. At least 2 people were killed and more than a dozen others were wounded. Jake Ciganero reports the shooter had an extensive criminal record.
Terrorism has struck our territory once again in Strasbourg, said Paris prosecutor Remy Heitz at a press conference. He added, the threat of terror is still very real. The shooter exchanged gunfire with soldiers at the Christmas market and took a bullet before escaping. Police are looking for a 29-year-old man from Strasbourg with a lengthy criminal record. Before the attack, police had gone to his home to arrest him in connection with attempted murder, but he wasn't there. The prosecutor said the assailant had been flagged by authorities for religious radicalization after a 2015 stint in prison. The Christmas market remains closed, and others around the country have heightened security. For NPR News, I'm Jake Ciganero in Paris.
On Wall Street, the Dow was up 269 points. This is NPR. Germany is increasing security along its border with France in the aftermath of yesterday's deadly attack in Strasbourg. German authorities say the move is just a precaution and there's no change to the current threat level in the country. A Christmas market in Berlin was targeted in a deadly attack 2 years ago. The legal team for comedian Bill Cosby is raising a number of issues it says should overturn the actor's guilty verdict. Laura Benshoff of member station WHYY reports.
Cosby began serving a 3 to 10 year sentence for aggravated indecent assault in September. This week, Cosby's attorneys filed court documents detailing the ways they say he didn't get a fair trial. Many of those complaints stem from incriminating deposition testimony shared during trial. Veteran defense attorney Tom Bergstrom says Cosby talked about giving women pills before having sex with them. Bergstrom is not affiliated with the case. Legal experts say it's difficult to win on appeal in Pennsylvania. Prosecutors say they have no comment at this time. For NPR News, I'm Laura Benshoff in Philadelphia.
An auction of Marilyn Monroe memorabilia has netted more than $1.5 million at auction. Some of the items auctioned off include a touring version of Monroe's iconic white dress from the movie The 7-Year Itch. Profiles in History Today announced the results of the Essentially Marilyn auction held yesterday in Los Angeles. On Wall Street, the Dow was up 267 points, the Nasdaq up 100. I'm Winsor Johnston, and you're listening to NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Hanes, donating 225,000 pairs of socks to homeless shelters, and more than 2.5 million pairs since 2009. Information on how to help the homeless is at hanes.com/sockdrive.
To invite you to stay with me, Peter Van de Graaff speaking, and I have an extended symphonic poem for you by Antonin Dvorak. And like most of his symphonic poems, this tells a very gruesome story. It's about a king. By the way, it's called The Golden Spinning Wheel. It's about a king that rides into the forest to meet with a peasant girl, Dornichka, who is in love with him and he with her. He returns to the castle, and the stepmother, however, takes her stepdaughter, the wicked stepmother that is, takes Dornichka into the woods and hacks her to death. Now, a golden spinning wheel brings her back to life, and the spinning wheel breaks into song and betrays the gruesome details of what happened. And then, in the end, the king realizes he has been cheated, and they are reunited. Here is the Scottish National Orchestra Järvi conducting Dvorak's The Golden Spinning Wheel. Naima Järvi led the Scottish National Orchestra in that symphonic poem by Antonin Dvorak called The Golden Spinning Wheel.
And you're listening to your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio. Good afternoon. I'm Chuck Smith. I hope you're having a wonderful afternoon. This kind of dreary Wednesday. It's a little overcast, but you know, there's something you can do to maybe brighten things up a bit and make you feel better and do a whole lot of good as well. Why not pick up the phone and give us a call at 800-552-8502 and make a contribution in support of your local public radio station, Red River Radio. This is our December pledge drive, but we're also having our second Christmas backpack program, a food backpack, and what that is we've partnered up with different food banks in our listening area, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank as well. If you make a contribution to Red River Radio, you're not only being supportive of public radio, but we will also provide a backpack of food to a food insecure child over the holidays. You know, a backpack of food may not sound like a big deal, but to many kids living in the Red River Radio listening area, you know, if it weren't for school lunch programs and breakfast programs at school, when school lets out during the holidays, they're not so sure about having a full meal every day during the holiday break. And, you know, there's a lot of people who, for whatever circumstances, rely on food banks to help provide nutritious meals to their families. And so give us a call at 800-552-8502. Make a contribution to your local public radio station, and you'll be helping out 3 food banks in the Red River Radio listening area. So far, we've gotten 185 backpacks filled so far today. We're trying to reach 800 by the end of our day and 2,400 by Friday. So with your help, we can do this. 800-552-8502. Real quick shout out to Pita De Novo for providing lunch to our staff and volunteers today. They're just an example of a local business that supports its local public radio station and likes to keep community public radio alive and thriving, and they also appreciate the audience that we attract as well. So next time you go to Pita De Novo, why not tell them thanks for their support. In the studio with me, Richard Corbett. He's with the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office, and he's been a long-time supporter of public radio, and he pitches in from time to time during our pledge breaks. Richard, it's always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure on this side as well.
And so before we get too far into our pledge drive, what are some things you guys are doing right now during the holidays? I mean, any special programs going on?
As of right now, we're on cruise control, but we're halfway through our 11th academic year. And if there are, and with that, I know that most of the listening audience is familiar with what Safety Town is, because we have children that only come from 8 parishes across Northwest Louisiana. We have 5 Texas counties that participate as well. If there is a need in the community that is not being met, and there's a safety component to it, some form or fashion, don't hesitate to pick up the phone. Call 318-698-SAFE. That's 7233. We'll put our heads together, pen to paper, we'll make some magic happen. And folks, like all of our programs, the only cost is whatever the cost is of gasoline to get there that day, and we'll take care of everything else. So don't hesitate to let us know. But also, I'm looking at some of the information here that is just, it's absolutely amazing. And it's data from the different food banks. I know that there are 3 different food banks that we're working to help impact our local communities. One is Central Louisiana, one is Northwest Louisiana, one is in Texas. But one of the things I've learned over the years is that if a child is not, they don't have that full belly, it will affect their cognition. It's such a distraction. It impacts how they perform in school. It impacts how they perform in life. And many of the listeners are very fortunate, I mean, included, that hunger was never a big issue, because there was always a nice hearty meal waiting for us, and we'd feel to our heart's content, and that wasn't an issue. But there are many kids in our community who are impacted by hunger, and when I see that it only takes $1 to provide 5 meals and $5 to fill a backpack for a child, please don't hesitate to pick up that phone, because so little can do so much for a child in need.
That's true. And, you know, the food banks, they're able to leverage dollars into food a lot easier than we can. I mean, and of course they will accept, you know, donations of food, canned food, dry food, that sort of thing. But dollars really go a lot further, and it's a really efficient means for them to do the good work that they do. You know, we were talking earlier when Meg Coleman, who's the development director for the Northwest Louisiana Food Bank, was here a little earlier. And between breaks, we were just talking about, the different circumstances that can really cause food insecurity.
Right.
We have a lot of single parents who are financially strapped for one reason or another, and there's a lot of single mothers who aren't working, who are impacted by a health issue. We were talking about one particular person who is undergoing chemotherapy, doesn't have a lot in the way of financial assets, and is pretty much on her own. No family support, and so this person turns to, the food bank and other agencies. And, it is unfathomable sometimes to think about, gosh, we have so much in this country, and I'm fortunate, I'm blessed. My mother and father, even though they had difficult times maybe back in the 60s when my dad was just a three-striper and trying to, keep
Sure.
keep me and my brothers fed. And boy, my brothers, come dinner time, if you didn't reach for the piece of chicken, you didn't get it.
That's right.
But there are so many people now that if you go to the grocery store and maybe look around sometimes, and you might see some folks whose baskets aren't quite as filled as others this time of year because they simply don't have the resources. And, the first thing I always tell people, man, don't judge, because it just takes one catastrophe in your life to turn your world upside down.
It does.
And health is one of those things that can really do that. Or their family dynamic can change. The father could get laid off, or
That's
he
right.
could have a health issue and possibly pass away. So, put your perspective in a person's shoes who's undergoing these things, and think how much it would mean for their child to have a backpack of food over the holidays. They don't have school lunches because they're off for the holidays, so that can be a real difficult time. And as you said, man, a kid with an empty belly, their cognition skills suffer, their attitude suffers, and they look around and they say, how come I'm this way? And it's through no fault of their own.
You're absolutely right. And regardless of what the reasons are on the family front, if they've lost a job or whatever the case might be, these children have no control
Absolutely.
over what they have. And that's why an initiative of this type is so vital. And there are people in need across the spectrum, but we do know for a fact that across North Louisiana, Central Louisiana, and Northeast Texas, there are some hungry kids out there. And
Yeah.
I'm so glad to be a part of a program and of an initiative that is helping. It's bringing like-minded people together to help meet a need that sometimes is it's out of sight, out of mind. And this is one of those things that reminds us of just how vital it is to make sure that everybody has a full belly, and this program is making that happen.
The basic human needs, food, shelter, and security, and
That's right.
food is one of the biggest of them all. And it's underscored no more than during the holidays for a family that just doesn't have the resources. So here's where you can come in. If you're listening to this, and if you like to listen to public radio, you enjoy Red River Radio, and you tune in on a regular basis, why not pick up the phone? Give us a call, 800-552-8502, or go online, redriverradio.org, and click the donate button at the top. Fill out the form, either call or do that. It'll take 3 minutes tops of your time. Make a contribution of whatever, $20, $30 or more, and you'll not only be supporting public radio, commercial-free radio, you're also going to be helping out during the holidays for a family that needs some food for their children. So give us a call, please, at 800-552-8502. Got a great group of volunteers standing by to take your call. They'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you like about Red River Radio. A big shout-out to our newest listeners in East Texas in the Tyler, Overton, Kilgore area. Tune in to KTYK 100.7 FM, the newest station in the Red River Radio Network. Help us do what we do best, to bring you commercial-free public radio and keep the community informed. We try to help out any way we can to worthwhile groups. Red River Radio is the voice of the community, and let your voice be heard with a contribution. Call now, won't you?
A Major Concerto by Antonio Vivaldi. Shlomo Mintz, violin and conductor with the Israel Chamber Orchestra. A man who led the renaissance of interest in the music of Vivaldi in the 20th century was Gianfrancesco Malipiero, who actually cataloged Vivaldi's works. We're going to hear a work now by Malipiero, which is evocative of 18th century Venice, Vivaldi's place and time. It's an opera called The False Harlequin, Il Finto Arlecchino, and here's a little suite from the opera, the Veneto Philharmonic led by Peter Mock. suite from the opera The False Harlequin by Mali Piero, Peter Mock conducted.
And good afternoon. You're listening to your local public radio station, member-supported Red River Radio. I'm Chuck Smith. Hope you're having a great afternoon. We're just taking a quick break from our regular programming to remind you this is our holiday pledge drive. This is a time where we ask you to consider the value of public radio, what it means to you to have a public radio service in your area, and commercial-free as well. So to keep us going and doing what we do best, why not pick up the phone and give us a call at 800-552-8502, or you can go online to redriverradio.org, click the donate button near the top of the homepage, and fill out the form. In the studio with me is Richard Corbett. He's with the Caddo Parish Sheriff's Office. And Richard, we were talking about this backpack program that we've got going on where people make a contribution to Red River Radio, and we have partnered up with the Food Bank of Central Louisiana, the Food Bank of Northwest Louisiana, and East Texas Food Bank as well. For every contribution we get, we leverage a backpack of food, about a week's worth, for a food insecure child over the holidays. And we were talking about what all goes in, what people basically can expect a backpack to contain. Would you share some of that information?
Well, based on my understanding, and this is also having done some volunteer work at the food bank here in Northwest Louisiana, this is not a package of sweet treats, although there are some goodies in there because children, of course, like little snacks.
Oh, who doesn't like snacks?
That's right. I know. I'd be digging deep for one of the backpacks myself. But you do have items like peanut butter, and you have healthy vegetables. You have easy-to-make meals. And these are the things that are going to make sure that a child gets the nutritional needs and that they're met, but not just for one meal, for a slate of meals.
Yeah, and it's about roughly about 10 pounds of food per backpack?
And that's per backpack.
Yeah.
Right, that's per backpack. So that's significant. And knowing that the contributions that our listening audience makes, they go to help purchase the backpacks of food. I remember years ago, and there's an organization I've been a part of that's, of course, there's thousands of members, but it's the Fraternal Order of Police. And every year, about this time, they have this program that's called Shop with a Cop.
Mm-hmm.
And we go to usually the Walmarts in the area because they're partners with us on that. And there are children whose parents will register them in advance. And we take anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour per child, and we go around the store, and we have X amount of dollar per child. And they're usually picking out different items, different toys, what have you. Well, I'm reminded of one that took place about 4 years ago. And young girl, I'd say she's about 8 or 9 years old, and as we're walking around, I noticed that we're walking past the toys,
mm-hmm.
and we're walking back to the produce.
Yeah.
And she's picking up cans of food, and I realized what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, honey, I tell you, let's do this. I can tell that you're in need, and we're going to make sure that you get those needs taken care of,
mm-hmm.
because it tears at your heart because now you're seeing it firsthand,
yeah.
and you know it's genuine. We made sure that she got some toys, but we also made sure that when she left that day that she had some food, not just for her, but for
mm-hmm.
her little brother that was also part of the program and her family. It was an illuminating experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that makes you realize that whatever you do, no matter how little, it does have a positive impact.
Oh, I know. I've been involved with some of those things where some of the kids were going to get things for mom,
right?
And I mean it was like but this is your day. This is for you, and they would go and get something for their mother, and I was just like, wow. So it really makes you think about the need there and how many people in our area who have that need. 1 in 5 families. Even though we're in such a great country and all, we still have a food insecurity problem, and through circumstances that are often beyond the control of the people, whether they've lost a job or they've lost a parent or they have a sick parent. We had one story earlier about a single mother who's undergoing chemotherapy and has no job and no family resources or assets at all. She needs the food that the food bank provides to help her make ends meet, and these are things that we don't think about on a day-to-day basis. But during the holidays, if you really want to give back to the community and help support your local public radio, you're not only going to be doing a good deed to help public radio stay on the air, you'll be helping 3 other worthwhile organizations who, by the way, have had stresses of their own because of all the catastrophes. They pitch in and help people who are victims of flood or tornadoes or severe weather events that have occurred. And Governor Edwards and his wife Donna were on the air the other day. We did a story, and they urge people to help every food bank you can, because their shelves are pretty weak right now.
Well, you bring up a very good point. It's something that's been mentioned earlier, is that these food banks, if you're able to make the monetary contribution through their networks, whether it's the local grocery stores or other food providers, it is amazing how far a dollar can go. We can go to a store that's more of a, let's say, a higher volume grocer where you get really good deals on the food. You can have a coupon. They can get an even better deal with the monetary contribution, because those organizations that they partner with, those grocers, they know who the end user is going to be, and they give them a bang-up deal. And if ever for a moment you doubt the need, or also the appreciation that those families and those children's needs have, all it takes is just to look around the community. When you're walking through the grocery store or you're going to the movies or whatever, you will cross paths with somebody who is in need.
You will.
And don't hesitate to reach out and give them that little bit of encouragement. And also, in the case of Red River Radio, make that contribution and help us provide these children with the food that they need. Because, as we mentioned earlier, if you have a healthy child, you have a child that is on the road to progress. They're going to be a viable member of the community. They're going to be a leader. They're going to look back on this as a very fond, a learning moment, and they're going to help eradicate the hunger in our community. So let's start now. Let's make that happen.
Let's do it. The number is 800-552-8502. Richard, I think you're done right now, aren't you?
I think so.
You're done. Well, I appreciate you coming in and helping us out as always. And again, if there's anything that Safety Town can help out with, what's that number that people can call?
It's 318-698-SAFE. That's 7233. And we appreciate Red River Radio and your listeners for supporting us all these years and giving us an opportunity to get a little 15 seconds of basically an unsolicited advertisement out there about what we do and who we do it for.
You guys do good work. Thanks again. And I want to remind everybody, you're listening to Red River Radio, a public radio service of LSUS. This is 89.9 FM KDAQ, 90.7 KLSA, Alexandria Pineville, 90.9 KBSA El Dorado Magnolia, 88.9 KLDN Lufkin Nacogdoches, and our new station, 100.7 FM KTYK, Overton, Tyler, Kilgore.
Killed 2 people in the French city of Strasbourg on Tuesday evening. Although he was wounded in a shootout with soldiers, he escaped. Damien Grammaticus is in Strasbourg.
The gunman's been identified as a local man born in France, already on its terror watch list. Just 29 years old, he had more than 24 convictions for petty crimes. Ali, who hid inside a shop, said he saw the attacker carrying a Kalashnikov and recognized him as Sharif Chakat, because they'd spent time in prison together. I saw people running, he says. Police running too. Everyone was saying it's gunshots. So now, on the nearby border with Germany, police are checking vehicles to try to stop him slipping away. And France's national terror alert has been raised to its highest level.
U.S. health officials say the synthetic drug fentanyl has surpassed heroin to become the deadliest drug in America, responsible for more than 18,000 deaths in 2016. That's nearly 30% of all drug overdose fatalities. Fentanyl is said to be 50 to 100 times more potent than heroin or morphine. Scientists in California say that climate change is squeezing winters into a shorter period of time. Here's our science reporter, Victoria Gill.
Professor Amato Evan from the Scripps Institution in San Diego studied the annual cycle of snow and melt in the western US from the early 1980s to this year. He found that the length of time snow is on the ground there is continually being squeezed into a shorter period. Mountain snow is what millions of people rely on for a fresh water supply. In California particularly, the reservoirs are only refilled by annual snowmelt. Scientists say this signal from the snow is clear evidence that the impacts of climate change are now playing out in the mountains.
BBC News.
Hello, you're listening to the BBC World Service with Julian Marshall in our studios in central London and me, James Kumarasamy, in our makeshift studio just opposite the UK Houses of Parliament. And we are here because it's been a dramatic day again in British politics. The UK Prime Minister Theresa May facing a vote of no confidence from her MPs in the ruling Conservative Party. Earlier today, it was confirmed that 48 of them had submitted letters calling for that vote. That triggered the vote. Mrs May said she would be defiant, and in the last few minutes that defiance would appear to have paid off. It's been announced that she has won that vote, or survived it perhaps more accurately. The announcement was made by Sir Graham Brady, who is chair of the Backbench 1922 committee. Here is him announcing that result.
The result of the ballot held this evening is that the Parliamentary Party does have confidence. Does have confidence in Theresa May as leader of the Conservative Party. The number of votes cast in favour of having confidence in Theresa May was 200, and against was 117. Under the rules set out in the constitution of the Conservative Party, no further confidence vote can take place for at least...
Sir Graham Brady there announcing that result. Well, listening to that and with us, one of those 317 who cast a vote, Rory Stewart, who's the Minister of State at the Ministry of Justice. Judging from your smile, Rory Stewart, I'm guessing you were among the 200 rather than the 117?
That's right. And I've actually spent most of the afternoon with people amongst the 117 guaranteeing me that they were going to win the vote against the Prime Minister, claiming they stood for the majority of the Parliamentary Party. At least what we've established is that in a secret ballot, where there was no pressure on anybody, it's clear that the majority are behind the Prime Minister.
Because, yes, we did hear, as you've just alluded to throughout the day, people saying, don't believe what you're hearing. These people have gone on the record saying they support her. When it comes to it, in that secret ballot, some of them will vote otherwise, but that wasn't the case.
No, and it feels like roughly the kind of figures that people were predicting. So something like 100 people were probably coming out against the deal, and then there will be others who may have wanted to run for leadership and secretly put in their names against her in the hope of destabilising. But essentially it's a vote in her favour. It's a bigger margin, for example, than Mrs Thatcher got against Heseltine. And in Conservative terms, she can now continue for another 12 months.
But it's one thing to come out against the deal, another thing to come out against her, isn't it? And it's still 117 of your colleagues who have said they do not have confidence in the person who is now taking Britain through these most sensitive final stages of the negotiations to get a Brexit deal.
Well, this is probably the most divisive issue we've had in British politics since the Second World War. And emotions run unbelievably high on this. Europe has been at the heart of the Conservative Party's disagreements for 50 years.
And will continue to be. This won't make it go away, will it?
No. What it exposes is something we knew already, which is there are very, very powerfully held opinions. But it also shows that by a democratic mandate, she now has a mandate to continue negotiating for her deal. And people who said there was a majority for no deal have been exposed as being wrong.
So is that it? Is no deal off the table now?
Well, never say never, but insofar as people respect this democratic mandate, they had a chance to prove their case. They claimed that the majority of people were behind no deal. Clearly isn't the case. The majority of people, even in very difficult circumstances, want the Prime Minister to continue to negotiate her deal. And her whole speech that she gave to us this evening was fundamentally about being able to negotiate the Brexit deal. This was a referendum partly on her, but primarily on the question of no deal against a Brexit deal, and the Conservative members of Parliament have voted for a Brexit deal.
And was it also about the possibility of a general election? And this is parliamentary day when once a week she faces off against the opposition to PMQs, Prime Minister's questions, and she used a lot of that time to say, look, do you want me or do you want him? Jeremy Corbyn, leader of the opposition. Did that focus minds?
I think it will have focused minds, and I think the other thing that will focus minds is the question of coming together as a party, because the party now feels divided, and as a country. So what Theresa May is going to have to do is take this mandate, take the 12 months that it's given her, but in particular the next 2 months to come back from Europe with a deal, get the DUP back on side, get a lot of those 117 people on side, and for my money also begin to reach across to more moderate voices in Labour so that we can get a deal in place.
But you've outlined all the challenges that were there before this vote and continue to be there, and will this really change the dynamic?
No, and that's why personally I thought this was a distraction. The fundamental thing that we're focusing on here is, can we get a Brexit deal through? And I cannot understand why people thought that it was relevant to try to vote against the Prime Minister in the middle of a negotiation, but that's happened. We've got it out of the way in 24 hours. She now needs to get back to Europe and get the concessions she needs to get the deal through.
And what kind of hope do you hold out for that?
In the end, I believe in sanity. I mean, that's how I keep going in this game. So
some of us believe in fairies, Rory.
That's true. I mean, you're right. My faith and sanity is being tested a little bit over the last few months. But in the end, Britain has always managed to emerge from everything. More horrible situations, civil wars, reformations, with a moderate, pragmatic settlement. And I really believe this democracy still has it in it to come out of all the blood and thunder of this democratic mess and find our way towards a deal.
Well, Rory Stewart, thanks very much. You heard Jenny Russell there from the Times and the New York Times. We've also got Rob Watson, our political correspondent, with us here in the makeshift studio. Rob, your reflections on this vote, the size of the win and what it might mean.
I would echo a lot of the things that Rory Stewart just said, but I guess I pick out good news and bad news for Theresa May. Good news for her, she survives. Good news is that you have to remember that this challenge against her was mounted by the hard Brexiteers, the far right in her party, and I think she may well be less fearful of them, seeing as she's sort of seen them off for now. But now we move on to the bad news, and the bad news, again, as Rory was acknowledging, is that so many people voted against her, and this is a reminder of just how incredibly divided the Conservative Party is. I think there's also a way in which she has undermined her authority by effectively firing the starting gun on her leadership, because one of the ways in which she survived this no-confidence vote was to say to Conservative MPs, look, don't worry, you won't have to have me during the next general election. And we know what happened to Tony Blair when he said that he was going, and what's happened to Angela Merkel. So I think that is a problem. And of course, as Rory was acknowledging, and no doubt Jenny will chip in on this in a minute as well, is that in a funny way, this has been a sort of a distraction, if you like, a sort of a comma, a pause, when you think, hang on a minute, tomorrow morning we'll say, so hang on a minute, so what happens with Brexit? How does she get a deal through?
And it's been a very short pause. It's always said, isn't it, that the Conservative Party is very good at sort of shoving leaders it doesn't want out pretty quickly. Well, they've clearly managed to keep the one a majority of them seems to want in power pretty quickly as well. I mean, this whole process, once it started, has been pretty quick, hasn't it?
Yeah, it also used to be said of the Conservative Party that they were the sane, sensible party who knew how to wield power, and that's not a thing that you could say about any of them now. No, I think this is the fact that exposes the fact that the Brexiteers are deluded fantasists, and they haven't even got the backing within their own party to take over, let alone the backing of Parliament or the country. If they had any grace at all, they would now acknowledge that their bit of power has failed, and that the only thing to do for the good of the country, if they honestly believe in a Brexit that doesn't destroy the economy, is to back May on the withdrawal deal, and then spend the next couple of years arguing about the details of actually how we leave the European Union. However, I think I can guarantee that they're not going to do anything of the sort.
Well, let's have a listen. Let's hear some reaction from one of the leading Brexiteers, Jacob Rees-Mogg. He was speaking to the BBC's Andrew Neil and gave his reaction to that vote.
It's a terrible result for the Prime Minister. It really is. But think of this. About half the parliamentary party is either in government, a PPS or a trade envoy, so is in the pay of the Prime Minister one way or another. Out of the remaining 160 or 170, 117 voted against her, because you have to assume the payroll would vote for their boss.
Well, you don't know that, it's a secret ballot.
Of course, But if you're not getting your payroll to vote for you, anyone who's on the payroll who didn't vote for her should have resigned, and nobody's resigned, so you've got to assume the payroll voted for her. This is 117 out of what, 160, 170? Sure. This is a terrible result for the Prime Minister.
Nevertheless, she won and you lost.
Accept that.
Your side triggered the vote. You lost that. Are you saying that you're going to continue the fight, that you won't accept this result, that you won't get behind the Prime Minister?
Of course I accept this result. But the Prime Minister must realise that under all constitutional norms, she ought to go and see the Queen urgently and resign. And I'll tell you why. Constitutionally, if a Prime Minister cannot get her business through the House of Commons, and on Monday the Prime Minister stood up and said she was going to lose so heavily that she wasn't even going to present the vote, and then discovers that the overwhelming majority of her backbenchers, of her non-paid backers, have voted against her. She clearly doesn't have confidence of the House of Commons. She should make way for somebody who does.
Jacob Rees-Mogg, leading Brexiteer, speaking to the BBC's Andrew Neil.
And we're going to pop in here and talk to you for just a little bit. We'll get back into BBC coverage in just a moment. Good afternoon to you. I'm Kermit Bowling. I'm the general manager here at Red River Radio, and we are in at the very beginning of a 3-day, essentially a countdown for our food backpack campaign here. Now, we were going to do some sort of a fundraiser as we get close to the end of the year anyway, but this is a way for us to not only raise money for Red River Radio, but to also support the food banks of Northwest Louisiana, Central Louisiana, and the East Texas Food Bank. How are we doing that? Well, we have some wonderful partners, and they are contributing to the food banks and inspiring you to make a contribution to Red River Radio. And for every contribution that comes in from a listener today, tomorrow, and Friday, they will provide 3 backpacks essentially in your honor. Your name might not be directly attached to it when it reaches the hand of a child, but on the other hand, you will know that you have generated 3 food backpacks. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Give us a call at 800-552-8502. You can go online at redriverradio.org. Again, I'm Kermit Bowling, and in from Marshall, Texas, 2 members of our Community Advisory Board here at Red River Radio, Julie Jameson with Sweet Sabine and Gail Beal. And,
hello.
And good afternoon to you.
How are you?
Could I be a city commissioner, or shall I be an animal shelter?
Well, you have your choice, or all of the above.
Well, we've just made a contribution. I'll let Julie tell you about it, but we've come up with a way that we have given 27 backpacks.
Yes. Yeah.
The 2 of us. I'll let her explain.
Explain that.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing. We're all so super blessed. And if there's one thing I can tell you, we need less stuff. So in my family, the adults all draw names for Christmas, and it's always a challenge to figure out what to get someone. And I've decided that in honor of the one that I drew and the one that my husband drew, that we are going to, in addition to what we're going to do, we're going to make a donation in their honor. And speaking circumspectly, just in case he happens to be listening, one of my uncles, for example, is on that list. And I can't think of a child on this planet that he would not want to feed. And so I think that he really appreciates that, something was done in his honor that helped feed young children in this area. And it's a big difference that can be made on a weekly basis in your community. And at the same time, you can support this wonderful radio station that you clearly care so much about. And so I've made a couple I've done some of my Christmas shopping as soon as I got here by making these donations in honor of some of my family members. And then also, unfortunately, my father passed away about a year ago, and so I decided to do a donation in honor of my father. And so I think it was something that he would truly appreciate as well. So I did some of my Christmas shopping and got some of my things done by coming here and taking care of this. And I think it's just a wonderful way to show people in your family that you honor them by, making this contribution, that that they would really want something like that done, that they want to help the community.
Right. And notice what Julie did. Why do I keep calling her? what she did, what I did, I made four different contributions, which means that each one gets 3 backpacks in memory of a friend of my late husband, and also in honor of Audrey Carroll. Audrey Carroll is Jewish, so we talk about Christmas, but you can also talk about Hanukkah. So it's a sneaky way for us to expand what we're doing in getting those backpacks to kids, and still making that one, not one contribution, but in my case 4, in Julie's case 3. Same amount of money, but a whole lot more backpacks.
More backpacks. Make them as individual contributions? Okay. Hey, you're giving away our secrets.
Oh,
but, you know, but that's great. That's great.
Years in my checkered career, I was the director of the Head Start program, and I knew every Monday that we were going to cook 1.5 times as much food as we did the rest of the week, because my Head Start kids would come in hungry. So Mondays always we cooked more food than usual. And you think about kids in East Texas going hungry, it's mind-boggling. It's unbelievable. But if you go down to the food bank in Marshall, you see hungry people.
Sure.
Hungry kids.
Well, if you look at statistically, so we know in Northwest Louisiana that the food bank here provided 44,000 food backpacks last year. East Texas packed over 180,000.
Good grief.
So isn't that amazing? Central Louisiana about 36,000. So that's a lot of food backpacks. And as the executive director of the Northwest Louisiana Food Bank was on the air this morning, and she was saying that, and the thing is there's waiting lists. I mean, so any additional money that they receive, and that's going to come from our partners who work with us on this project.
And so generous. My gosh. I mean, I can't say enough nice things about the wonderful generosity of the people who have stepped forward to make this possible. I mean, it's awe-inspiring.
It's a 3-way deal. You raise money for the radio station, you feed hungry kids, and these people that are willing to step up and do both, contribute both to
they are contributing. So the checks to the food bank come from our sponsors. We don't write the checks. We're not in our situation. We're not able to do that. We can raise money for ourselves. That's how public radio is set up for the most part. But instead, what we have done is gotten these wonderful sponsors together. They are writing the checks to the food bank. But what they're doing is making it a challenge. So they're challenging us to get 800 contributions in by the end of this drive, which will be midnight Friday, right? So if we get 800 in, that will generate 2,400 food backpacks. Now what we're doing is counting down. So we started with 2,400 to go. We now have 2,220 to go. So we've done almost 200 food backpacks just in the short time that we've been on the air today doing this. And let me mention
that by like 10%.
Yeah, well, that's it. There we go. We've done that already. Here are the sponsors. Okay, I want to thank B'nai Zion the congregation, John Gale and Ann Gramillion, Kilpatrick Life Insurance, Rose Neath Foundation, Havard and Nellie Lyons, the Bendersky family, an anonymous mother who believed no child should go hungry, and Austin Bank and Nacogdoches. Now, all of them together, they're taking care of the food bank side of this. They're waiting for you to take care of the rest.
And just seriously, thank you to all of them. I mean, I am humbled by their generosity, and it is this is just such a brilliant opportunity. I mean, there's so many people are being helped by this in so many different directions. It's just fantastic.
So give us a call at 800-552-8502.